What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you guys, and we're going to be focusing on that big summer rebuild in this video. And look, a lot has been made, hasn't it, since the end of the last game against Liverpool about how much change is going to happen here at Tottenham. It probably was brought up by Ange Postecoglou himself. I think it was prior to the game, wasn't it, in the embargo section when he was speaking about big changes about to happen. And since then, a lot of journalists have jumped on and spoken about it. But we're going to be talking about an article from Tom Ulner of the Times today. And he said that there is a recognition within Spurs that the summer needs greater strength in depth and they are ready to back Ange Postecoglou with signings in 3 priority positions this summer. Spurs are targeting younger players who are aggressive and capable of matching Postecoglou's demand for high-risk, possession-based football, and could let up to 7 players leaving the club as they look to create a squad capable of playing his style of football next season. Any deals for other attacking targets will be pursued before any possible deal for Timo Werner. Højbjerg, Emerson, Giovanni Lo Celso, Ryan Sessegnon and Brian Hill could be let go, while Bissouma and Richarlison would also be sold if suitable offers come in. They also say Alejo Veliz will probably be going back out on loan next season. I mean, apart from those players mentioned, can you see anyone else as a potential exit from the club besides the loan players?
Ben Davies, potentially.
Ben Davies as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if suitable offers come in for him, considering he's got 1 year left in his contract. I think Manuel Solomon might be up for sale as well, if there's any interest in him, albeit he's been out for the whole season. So
that's 9.
How much interest he garners is another question. Apart from them, I don't see anyone else leaving, to be honest. I think the rest are pretty good players, and I think... yeah, exactly. It doesn't leave many left. So I think that should be enough to start restructuring the team.
Do you feel like this is a bit too much to have to do in one summer? Because you're talking about potentially up to 9 players leaving the club, which means every single one of those are probably going to have to be replaced. So 9 out, 9 in. And in terms of starting the season well and getting everyone gelled at the same time, like, how realistic is that if, like, we have Ange Postecoglou has already said that he wants a challenge for the title next season?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I would say it's unrealistic to sell 9 and get 9 in. I don't think that's going to be possible. I think selling players in this current market for a price that you're happy with is one of the hardest things to do in the current world of football. And I think unless we're willing to take significant hits on pretty much all of those players, I don't see them all leaving. But it's clear that we're open to offers for all of them. In terms of they don't all need to be replaced, I guess. Like people like Sessegnon, does he need to be replaced? Probably not. But
we do know we need a backup left back, because Udogie is the only left back in the squad.
Unless we sign a player like a
Calafiori.
Yeah, like Calafiori can play 2 positions. That's what I think we're probably going to go in that direction. Someone who's versatile.
Yeah, I guess a Calafiori can be classified as like a replacement for Ben Davies or a Ryan Sessegnon, because there is a gap in that bit of the pitch anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So we need like exactly. We need only 1 defender. I think you can get away with 1 defender as long as he's versatile in that position. And then you look at the striking position. Do we go with a winger, which I think we need? Are we going to look for a winger/striker kind of player, which maybe fills 2 positions? I think I wouldn't do that, because that's kind of what Son does. So it's unrealistic to think we're going to get rid of 9 players plus all the loan players and then bring in another 9. I think 9 is excessive. I mean, you think about the summer we sold Bale, we brought in 7 players, and that was considered a lot. And that was after getting 100 million for Gareth Bale as well. We're not going to be getting 100 million for 1 player this summer. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll do our best, but I don't think selling 9 and bringing 9 is going to happen.
Well, in terms of all these players, let's say for argument's sake we do sell them all, how much do you envisage that we can potentially bring in? So Højbjerg, how much do you reckon we can bring over him? Like 15, 20 million?
20 million, I would say.
Even with 1 year left in his deal, Højbjerg?
20 million's a good... Yeah, I think that's a good deal.
So that's 20 for him. Emerson, 15, let's say.
Yeah, between 15 and 20.
35. Lo Celso, 15 again.
15, 20, yeah.
Yeah, that's 50 million already. That's just 3 players. And then if you're going to sell Bissouma or Richarlison, that's probably the best part of 100 million.
Yeah, I'm not saying we can't bring in significant funds if we sell all those players. I'm just saying bringing in 9 players is a lot to get over the line, and they'll all have to be the right players as well. It's a lot of business to do.
We'll talk about which kind of players we think we can bring in a minute, but in terms of, a lot has been made out of the academy this year, hasn't it? With the likes of Jamie Donnelly, Iago Santiago, Sunsot Bell, Lancashire. Do you see any of these kind of players breaking in and actually getting some minutes and being part of the first team squad as options next year?
It's hard to say. I would love to sit here and say yes, based on what I've seen from them in the under-21s, and they seem to be very impressive. And a lot of the players like Devine and Phillips having good loan deals as well. I would love to sit here and say they can all be part of the first team. I just don't know if they're good enough. They might be. It's all about giving them a chance and seeing. Sometimes all they need is an opportunity, and maybe being in the Europa League could help that. Maybe. I'm not convinced that just because we're in the Europa League we're going to be starting all the youngsters, but maybe.
But you can sprinkle some in.
Maybe. I would like to believe we can. But it's also a competition I can see Ange taking very seriously. Europa League's not an easy level. You got to remember, these are you're playing a lot of the time teams who have finished high up in their respective leagues, top leagues. So if these players are struggling against League One and League Two in England, why does it mean they're going to be better against good European teams? So I'm not saying they're not good enough. I'm just saying I don't know if they're good enough. I don't know if Ange is going to trust them to be part of the squad. I would like to say yes. I would hope that at least a few of them are. But I don't know if we're going to see a massive influx of youth players next season. But
there's key decisions to make, particularly 2 of them. Iago Santiago, who's 21 years of age next year. He's going to be too old for the under-21s next season. And you've also got Jude Sunsot Bell, who started the season really well this year for the under-21s, but has tailed off a little bit towards the end. Has scored a fair amount of goals and grabbed some assists. He's 20 years of age. When you're looking at all the other ones that are doing really well, like Jamie Donnelly, I think he's 18, 19 years of age. Lancashire's 19 years of age. These players probably don't want them to be, but they might spend another year with the under-21s or grab a loan next season. But these Iago Santiago and Jude Sunsot Bell, we need to make big decisions on them in this summer window. And look, Santiago's been spoken about a lot this season in terms of how well he's been playing for the under-21s, but if you're at the age of 21 and you're still playing for the under-21s and haven't been, not even on the bench, I think he's been on the bench once or twice this season without getting a look in, I feel like we're probably going to try and move him on.
Or maybe give him a loan deal, see how he does. I don't know. I would like to say give him a chance at left wing, but I'm not the one who sees him in training. I don't know if when he trains for the first team, if he looks out of place, if he's not physically there yet. I'm obviously not privy to that, but I would like, based on what I've seen clips in front of the 21s, maybe give him a loan deal, see how he performs, and maybe with the view of bringing him back next season could save the club a lot of money. We've seen him previously when young players who've been training the first team. Poch, he threw Mason in, didn't he? When he was training with the first team for a few months, and then Stambouli and Capu weren't doing it. So he just threw Mason in, and he trusted what Mason could do. And obviously, he ended up, it was quite a good decision at the time. You've seen Phil Foden for Man City. I'm obviously not saying any of our players on the level of Phil Foden, but how he's been managed by Guardiola. Since he was 18, he's kind of been getting minutes here and minutes there to help build him up, and now he's a star. But last season, none of our youngsters really got significant game time. Is that because they're not good enough, or is Ange being stubborn? I can't really give you an answer for that.
Yeah. It's hard to envisage, though, isn't it, that we're going to have this big summer rebuild and big summer of change, because it feels like this seems to get touted about every single summer. Mm-hmm. That's the problem, isn't it?
Tottenham PR move. Every summer when we had a new manager, because first of all, we haven't had a manager who's finished the season since Pochettino. So every manager has wanted to stamp their authority on the squad, and every manager has needed that summer to rebuild their team in their image. So because we haven't had a manager finish a season since Poch, we're always going to the season with a new manager, fresh approach, and looking to shape the squad in their image. And obviously, it is happening again now. And
then they get sacked, and then it gets put back to square one, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I just find it hard to believe that it's going to happen to the extent of what all these journalists are saying. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. But
look,
we've been here before, haven't we?
You got to remember, whatever happens this summer, no one's going to be totally happy. I'm sure Ange isn't going to be completely happy. I'm sure he would have want more done. The fans aren't going to be completely happy, but you can only get done what you get done. And I know there's a lot to be done for Tottenham this summer. It doesn't mean it's impossible for us to finish that window in a position where we can challenge for big things next season. Just because there's a lot to do doesn't mean if we can get a sufficient amount of it done, then put ourselves in a very good position.
He goes on to say in the article that Tottenham could move early for some players by capitalising on their healthy financial position, and other clubs needing to sell before the June the 30th to comply with PSR. Nottingham Forest, Everton, Chelsea, Aston Villa and Newcastle are among those that may have to stay within the financial limits before June the 30th. It's just classic Tottenham, this, like the Jaws music, right?
Exactly. Any player who's either got a year left on your contract, or if you've got PSR problems, Tottenham will be circling, don't you worry. We know every little inch about what's going on there. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. We already took advantage of it with a couple of clubs, obviously with the Richarlison deal. Brennan Johnson deal as well. So I would not be surprised if we're going to be seeing who's available this summer and see if we can capitalise on that situation. That's classic Tottenham.
So I've had a look into these clubs and I've picked out some players, realistic and unrealistic targets. We'll start with the realistic ones and we'll start with Nottingham Forest. I guess the most obvious one is Morgan Gibbs-White. He's been linked with us for a while now. I think he is a good player. Versatile as well. I think potentially in a position we need if we do sell some of the players like Giovanni Lo Celso, potentially Dejan Kulusevski. I don't envisage us selling Dejan Kulusevski anyway. So do you see Morgan Gibbs-White fitting in if we do see Kulusevski as more of a central player?
Yeah, I can see him fitting in. I can see him definitely competing with Maddison, competing in the number 8 position as well. If we're desperate, can maybe fill in out wide, but I don't know if that, or maybe on the left, I should say. I don't know if that's a situation we really want him in, like starting regularly. But in terms of having a big, deep squad, if you've got someone like Gibbs-White, who's a rotation option and also ready to start, I think that would be a very good situation. Obviously, homegrown quota really helps. I think he's a player of really good quality. I personally, I don't know if Tottenham would be the best move for him. I do think he seems to be the kind of player who thrives being the main man somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know if that would be the case at Tottenham. Probably not. But I do think he's a good player, and I would be curious to see how it'd work out if we were to sign him, because I think having someone like him linking up with Maddison together is an interesting prospect.
The other one I've looked at is Murillo, the left-sided centre-back. We did a video on the ball before. I kind of likened him to Romero, very aggressive, likes to get up the pitch. He's shown himself to be a really good defender this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely, and he's a defender who defies his years in terms of how he plays. He plays like a seasoned pro in terms of his confidence and his assertiveness and this kind of real belief in himself. And he's very young for a 21-year-old defender to have those qualities. He's a very exciting defender as well, likes to dribble, likes to play out the back, has a sweet left foot. Obviously, because he's 21, although I said, he's quite self-confident. Sometimes he'd be too confident. Sometimes he'd be a bit rash, gets caught out of position sometimes. But I think if you can hone him in a bit, I think there's a player of real quality and potential there. I don't think he's my number one option, but at 21 years of age, I mean, very rare to find a centre-back in the Premier League playing as well as him.
Do you not think like he's definitely a profile that Ange Postecoglou will like? An aggressive defender, likes to attack, likes to get up the pitch, good at defending, and a good age as well.
Yeah, I think he'll like him. I think and he's so brave. He's very brave, which is crucial in how Ange wants to play. So I think he will like him. I do wonder how much he'll cost. I think they signed him for decent money. I can't remember how much exactly, but he's only been there a year. But he's been really, really good for them. Yeah,
I mean, we are talking about a club that needs to sell before the deadline, and if they don't sell anyone else, they might have to. We might force their hand.
Depends how much they're short of. Depends how much they're short of kind of the PSR rules.
They signed him for around 12 million.
At 20 years of age.
So you think, like, if they're struggling and they really need to sell, I reckon a bid of like 20, 25 million can probably get him out the door.
I think you're probably looking closer to 40.
Well, I mean, they might be forced their hand though.
depends how close they are to FFP. I mean, if they are 40 million short and we only offer 25, doesn't help them, does it really?
Yeah, I mean, it helps them get closer, and they might be able to sell someone else for a bit smaller, and everything adds up to
I know they got the points deduction, but they didn't do that with Brennan. They could have sold him for less because to comply. They said no, and they ended up getting 47. And then they did get the points deduction, so maybe you could say they learned their lesson. But I'm saying they did say no last time.
Yeah. With Everton, the two players I have looked at is Onana and Branthwaite. I mean, with Branthwaite being obviously an academy product from Everton, the sale is worth a lot more to them than maybe an Onana. I have liked Onana in the past, but I just feel like his end to the season, him being dropped from the Everton side, is a bit telling for me. And is he good enough for that number 6 of what we need?
I don't really see him as a number 6. I see him as more of a kind of not box to box, but more of like a Højbjerg kind of player in the.
Højbjerg has been playing number 6 for us.
I know, but he's not a very good number 6 in my opinion. I don't see him as a sitter. I think he's a player who he's not positionally disciplined. I think he likes to move around a lot. He likes to press people. He likes to cover lots of ground. I think we need a player who's a bit. Who's going to sit there, be a bit more calm and composed on the ball. I don't see Onana doing that. I think defensively off the ball, he has the attributes. I don't know if he's got the right profile of what we want in that role, in my opinion. Obviously, he covers a lot of ground and it's a bit of a monster. But I think we also need someone who can be a bit more calmer on the ball. I don't know if Onana is that profile.
And Branthwaite, I mean, there's going to be a big price tag on him, depending how much Everton do need to sell by the end of the season. But I just can't see this one being a deal that we're going to do, as much as I like him as a player.
I like him, but I don't think they're if we're looking at to sign him because they're going through PSR problems, I don't think they're going to go cheaper than a bit. At least 45 million, and I think for that price, there are probably other players out there of better quality than Branthwaite we can get. I think Branthwaite's done really well. Don't get me wrong, and I think we'll do well to get him. I just don't. I think I don't know if it makes sense because I don't think we're going to be paying an amount of money for him which justifies circling over the PSR problem, if you know what I mean. Because I think there are players for like 30 million around Europe who are probably better value than Branthwaite for 45, 50.
I'd agree with that. With us having Mickey van der Ven and that left centre back, you want someone that can come in where the quality doesn't drop too much, but I don't think you need to spend 45 million for a backup of van der Ven. I completely agree with that. As much as I think Branthwaite can become in one day like a leading centre back in the Premier League and maybe a future England starting centre back, I just feel like for where we're at as a squad right now and what we need, we probably need to spend that kind of money or bigger money in other areas of the pitch.
I think if we're going to spend that kind of money, let's say, I don't know how much Calafiori is going to cost, but spend that money, big money, on someone who can cover 2 positions, and then that makes more sense.
They're touting, in the press, are touting him out for around 25, 30 million.
There you go.
Chelsea, Conor Gallagher, Maatsen and Levi Colwell. Do you think any of them, do you think Maatsen or Colwell? I mean, Maatsen is touted out to stay at Dortmund this summer. They want to keep him. He's done so well, hasn't he, on their Champions League run, getting to the Champions League final and in the Bundesliga as well. Levi Colwell, we were linked with him just at the end of his Brighton loan spell. Do you see us being able to get any of these guys?
Gallagher's obviously the one we're mostly linked with. I think when it comes to maybe it's a case of they would rather lose Colwell than Gallagher. I don't know. I don't know the situation. Obviously, Gallagher only has 1 year left on his deal, so logic states that on that basis, Gallagher will be more likely to leave. But maybe if it comes down to it, maybe if we put in a bid for Colwell, who can also play both positions, left back and centre back, maybe if that means they can keep Gallagher, maybe they'd be tempted. That'd be interesting. In terms of Maatsen, yeah, he's probably going to go Dortmund, and I'm sure Chelsea would rather sell to Dortmund. But if for one reason or other that doesn't materialise and he's up for sale, I'd be very interested in him because he can definitely cover Udogie on that position. He would be perfect for the inverted role, in my opinion, and can also maybe potentially play on the wing as well down the line.
See, I think when you compare like Levi Colwell to Calafiori, do you think, I don't know if Levi Colwell can actually do the left back role similar to maybe a Destiny or Doggy?
Differently. I don't think he'll be as good as it, but he has played quite a decent part of the season this season at left back, and obviously he's very good on the ball. I think he's really really composed on the ball. He's got good quality. He makes good passes. So maybe I think the difference is the way Poch plays his left back is very different.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Ange, but I think he's got the profile to do it, in my opinion. And I actually don't think the way Poch plays his left back helps him too much, or even though he's done all right there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't been impressed with him at left back for the most part of the season. With Aston Villa, the one that we've been linked with is Jacob Ramsey. I really like Jacob Ramsey. He has had a few injury problems, hasn't he, over the past couple of years? But whenever he plays, he seems to be one of the standouts in the team.
Yeah, good ball carrier. He's like a winger turned centre mid, and when that kind of happens, it's similar to kind of how Iwobi plays that central role. He's very good at ball carrying tight spaces, good at getting the ball into the penalty area. Under Unai Emery, he's learnt this aggressive side of his game as well, so he's quite good in the challenge. Obviously, still young, still very mouldable. What I like about him is very versatile. Can do a job on the wing, can do a job in central midfield as well. I see him as more of a number 8 than a 10, for sure. I like him. I like Jacob Ramsey. I don't know. I think Gallagher's probably a better player, but I think Ramsey has potential to improve as well.
Do you think, in terms of ceilings, who do you think's got a higher ceiling?
I probably see more in Gallagher, to be honest, than I do in Ramsey.
Because they'll probably cost a similar amount.
They've got different assets, I would say. I think Gallagher's really great at his pressing, really good at those late runs into the box, but I think Ramsey's better at the ball at his feet, ball carrying ability, maybe getting the ball with his feet into the box, carrying the ball into the box, that kind of stuff. I think Ramsey's probably better at that. So they both come with their qualities. I
think, like, if you have to decide between the two, I think Ange would probably prefer Gallagher for his off the ball and the amount he likes to press. I mean, when Gallagher's on the pitch, you know, if you're playing in midfield or you're playing in defence, you're not getting much time on the ball. And I think that's what Ange will probably prefer out of the two. And then finally, Newcastle, I picked out Livramento and Lewis Hall. I mean, both of them haven't been there for that long. I think Livramento could be the perfect replacement for Emerson Royale if we were to sell Emerson Royale.
He can play both left back and right back as well. Covers both positions to a really good effect. Whenever he's played for Newcastle, he's been pretty good. I've been pretty impressed by him, and he was pretty good at Southampton last year. Unfortunately, got that big injury, didn't he? But he was pretty good when he played there. He convinced Newcastle to part with the best part, 30 million for him. So good. I think he's a really good left fullback. Again, will they let him go with after him only being there a year? Remains to be seen, but I really like him.
And it's not just that, is it? Like, Trippier's on his last legs at the moment.
Yeah,
so they are going to need him. So maybe that should be one of the unrealistic ones, but I'd love to see him through the door. In terms of the unrealistic ones, we've got Douglas Luiz, Leon Bailey, Watkins, Gordon, Bruno Guimaraes and Isak. I mean, you can't see us getting any of those, can you?
Well, unless we spend 100 million.
Yeah.
I can't see any. I mean, there are talks about maybe they'll let Guimaraes go for 80, but then Arsenal are sniffing around that. Isak as well. Arsenal apparently very interested in him. Douglas Luiz, I think Arsenal probably gone a bit cold on him. But again, it's a problem because we're a rival to Villa now, so I don't know if they'll be willing to sell to us. That's another thing. So I'd be very shocked if any of those clubs would entertain a bid from us for any of these teams. Yeah, I
mean, we have been a rival for them this season, but surely they got to be. I agree with you. They'll find it hard to sell to us, but surely they should be looking up as well and not strengthening people above them.
Yeah, and I would like to think that as well, but unfortunately, I don't know. A lot of the time, when you're more willing to sell to a team who are winning the league than a team you're a direct rival with. That's just how it is a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, out of all those players we mentioned, like, which ones can you see like as the proper realistic ones that we could actually sign? I mean, I don't see many, to be honest. You're looking at Gallagher, Murillo and Gibbs-White essentially, probably.
Yeah.
Those are probably the only ones
that I can realistically see coming to Tottenham. Probably. I think the others is not a great chance. I don't think Tottenham are going to be that interested in a lot of the others anyway.
So, I mean, it's a big summer ahead. It's a massive summer ahead. And I feel like this rebuild is going to go on for a good few years. I don't think like this summer is this be-all and end-all summer that people are talking about. I feel like we're going to have a lot. Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of business to do after this summer. And I guess it's just about trusting in the process and trusting in Ange Postecoglou and the scouting network, because I do believe that we'll probably be bringing in like kind of outside of the box players, maybe, I don't know, Scandinavian or some of these kind of players.
Yeah, it's never, look, everything can't always be done in 1 or 2 windows. It's going to take a lot of, it will take time. Look, but you have to earn that time, and that's, as Ange said, and that's on him to do. He's done all right first season, got us to 5th, but we need to progress on that. We can't be sitting here in a year's time saying he just needs another year. I don't think we can be doing that. I'm not saying if he doesn't win the league, he needs to be out. I'm just saying you need to show progression. You need to be, maybe getting close to that top 3, maybe challenging for one of the cups, giving the Europa League a good go, things like that. You need to be showing that giving him resources and trusting him is going to reap the benefits. So as much as it might go, the rebuild until it hits its absolute peak might not be next season. We can't be sitting here in a year's time having a similar season to this season and saying, well, he just needs more time.
Yeah, I think next season the aims have got to be deep runs in the cup, aiming to win one of them, Europa League, FA Cup, League Cup, and solidifying your place in the top 4. I mean, I don't even think it's about thinking about title challenges like Ange says. I think, he likes to make the fans dream, doesn't he, Ange Postecoglou? But I think it is about solidifying your place in the top 4.
I think he will be looking to transfer a title. I don't think whether it's realistic or not is not the case.
I mean, I think he thought that this season.
Yeah, and who knows what would have happened if it didn't all fall apart in November? Just everything got against us. I'm not saying we're a title challenging team. I'm just saying he should aim to try and transfer the title. That's what he should aim for, and I back him all the way. And I think that should be the aim. We should be looking for how can we challenge that top 3? What can we do to challenge that top 3? Do everything in our power to do that. And if we fall short and we only finish top 4, then it is what it is. But I think that should always be the goal. Finishes high, looking at number 1 spot.
Yeah, I just really hope that all these noises in the press about backing Ange Postecoglou, believing in Ange, giving him the time, giving him the resources is all true, because I just fear so much that we have a bad start to the season and then he gets sacked and then we have to start from square one again. That's like my biggest fear about this project right now.
Yeah, and being a Spurs fan, it's not something that is alien to us. So I understand it. We all have PTSD from a lot of times that has happened. How many times have we sacked a manager around November time? We sacked
Poch
that time. We sacked, what's his name, Ramos that time. AVB was December. Santini, well, he resigned at that time. So that is like a dangerous time to be a Tottenham manager, October, November. So let's hope Ange can have a good start to the season next season. We can really build on it.
Yeah, it's either that time or it's like March, April time when top 4 looks gone.
Yeah.
And then I think Mourinho went at that time, Conte went at that time. So yeah, look, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. How extensive do you think the rebuild will be this summer? Out of the clubs that are struggling with PSR, Everton, Forest, Chelsea, Villa, Newcastle, what realistic targets can you see us bringing in from those clubs? And which players do you think will be out the door as well? Do you think it will be as many as 9 as we mentioned, or do you think it will be less or more? Let us know in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.